But she is 5 months old today. She's been in training since she was 3 days old. And we started out our training but with basic commands, and then learned some other things with her, some tricks and just different things. But she has to, of course, follow our commands and stay. She's not allowed to go up to the children. The children have to come to her, so she can't just run around. She has to be on a leash all the time. So we got back, well, actually on Thursday we were finishing up our training, and he told us we had to take her to a couple stores. So we went to Lowe's and we went to PetSmart. And halfway through, he said, "Now, ladies, you realize I'm not testing the dog, I'm testing you." We were like, "Oh, we didn't know that." So, but anyways, he said we did great, and we actually got finished a little early and came home on Friday. And she's done very well. Yesterday morning was her first day at school, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, as if those have heard, Mr. Curry was actually there. We had a little boy that he was crying, did not want to leave his mother. He actually dropped to the floor, and Haven heard him crying, and she came to my doorway with Miss Katie, the counselor, and Miss Katie said, "Do you mind if we let him interact with her, and maybe he'll be better?" And she said, "I don't care." So they brought him into my office, and Haven actually licked one of the tears off of his eyes and let him play with her a little bit and did some tricks, and within 2 or 3 minutes he was ready to go to class. So that was really, really good. And then today we had a lady, I know this is kind of trivial to us, but not to a middle school student. A girl had, a boy broken up with her, so she was all upset and crying and everything. But she spent some time with Haven, about 5 minutes, and she was better. She was ready to go to class. So that's 2 things. And then another incident happened that might seem trivial, but in a way it was a good lesson. We had a boy that looked in, and he walked down the hall and said to a lot of people, "That's the ugliest dog I've ever seen." So today I was talking to him, and I said, "It's okay that you have that opinion." I said, "But she's part of us now. So just like when we teach you about bullying, to me, that is bullying her." I said, "Because I'm not just here to teach you. I always tell my students, I'm not here just to teach you educational things. I'm here to give you morals in life." And that is something that you just shouldn't walk around and say. Now, if you came to me and said, "She's really not the kind of dog I would want to have," that's a good way to say that. But just to walk around and say she's ugly, that's like calling your friend to me, because she's part of us now. So that was kind of a good lesson to him. And I said, "I just want you to see my point." And he said, "I got it." So, so that's just a couple things she's done just in a couple of days. The kids are so excited to see her. We did send home permission slips, and in the elementary we've almost got 100% back. And she's going to start visiting some classrooms and just letting them see her. We're going to get some lists of some of our lower readers and let them come and read to her in the office where it's quiet. But she's done very well already working. So I told them earlier when I came in that it's amazing because she has to wear a vest. It says therapy dog, but when I take that vest off yesterday, we got home, she was a puppy, a pure puppy, just playing. But when she has that vest on, she's just as calm, and she'll just lay there or do whatever you want. So it's been a great experience. We're glad to have her. So I'm glad our kids have her. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You all have to come out and visit
Yes.
whenever I get down. Okay, next on our sign-in queue is Micah Canterbury. Who wants to talk about the weight room renovation. Mr. Canterbury.
Good evening. Since I got the strength and conditioning position, I see it for the whole school, not just for the football team, because everybody can benefit from the weight room. I've been wondering what I can do to give these kids. And when I saw our weight room budget, I was like, what can I do for free for these kids? So I began asking around to other teachers in the building and see if they would be willing to donate some things that I think that we would be able to use in the weight room to kind of make them proud of where they work out. They're in there for about 6 to 8 months, and then there's the season. So they spend a lot of time in the weight room. I guess my dream would be the smaller room. As soon as you walk in from the hallways, would be converted into a film room. I would close off the old windows that are there, but make them retractable, so that if we do have something going on in both rooms, we can monitor both rooms. But then again, if we have film or meeting, we can close off that room, and that way we don't have kids looking out into the weight room and getting lost into our film sessions. Best part about that is I have our building construction class willing to do that for us. Put in everything we need to do for that. I've talked to Ryan Pritchard about possibly donating a lot of game shots, action shots to hang in there to just build a sense of pride. Give them, a facility that we keep talking about, and if it's something we can do for free, I'd like to try and make that happen. We've got a projector donated to us, a mount to go in the ceiling. We've had 80% sure we've got a sound system coming to us, donated for free. People just aren't using it anymore. They want to get out of their house. And Mr. Linville said I should probably address y'all since it's going on in your building, just to get your feel on it and see if if it's something that, since it doesn't cost anything, if we could go ahead and move on it. And I just wanted to tell you that.
Once again, we really can't discuss it this time. What I would suggest is that you get with Ms. Powell and come to the board at some future time that's convenient for you. Tell us exactly what renovations you want to make, and so we'll know exactly what they are and allow us to ask questions.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are the two people we had signed in. So next on our agenda is a presentation. As everyone knows, our school calendar for the 2016-17 school year is now it's in a proposal form. The board hasn't acted on that yet, but there are two public hearings that are required, and tonight will be the first one. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Midkiff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Priestley. This is a little later in the year than in the past when we've taken a look at the calendar. The guidelines came to us a couple of months later than usual because the State Department was waiting to see what was going to be introduced in the legislature pertaining to the calendar. And there is one bill out there that still has some legs to it that would look at instructional minutes as a possibility used to make up the lost instruction, but only after you've exhausted your OS days. So that bill is still going through the process, making its way eventually, I guess, to the governor's desk. I'm not sure what he'll do with it, but there is a possibility that we could see a revision to the calendar this legislative session. My guess would be that it wouldn't take effect, though, until the 17-18 school year. It's usually a year behind. So I just wanted to share with you, let you know that that's happening. The guidelines you have in front of you, this packet, is what the department sends us every year. And this is exactly the same as it was last year. That's the requirement that we have 2 public hearings. This is indeed just a draft calendar that you're going to look at this evening for the first time, a proposed one. Obviously, we're seeking public comments, suggestions when we look at this calendar before we come up with a final calendar for the board to approve. And then once that's been completed, then the calendar has to be submitted to the State Department by May the 2nd for the State Board's approval. So this is just one step in the process.
Is it the 2nd or the 22nd?
That date's incorrect.
Okay, it's the 2nd.
Yeah, the date that's in there, it says the 22nd, but the State Department sent an email out just a couple of weeks ago that date is actually Friday, May the 2nd is when it's due. So you'll see inside that packet is the statutes that affect the school calendar for 16-17, and the state board policy on the calendar, the guidance that we're given in preparing for the calendar, as well as graduation dates that we have to select. If you've got one or more high schools that you must give the State Department for approval, and a copy of the calendar, proposed calendar that we have up on the screen here this evening. So, the calendar committee has been, we've met 3 times since we received these guidelines. The most recent meeting was on Friday. Some of those members of the calendar committee are here this evening. Mrs. Clayton, who, she has said more than once that if there was ever a calendar coordinator's position, that she was the person. She loves working on a calendar. Ms. Ferguson served on the calendar committee, so does Mr. Linville, so does Mr. King, as well as some others. I also participated and have for years in developing the calendar. There's some flexibility in calendar in terms of when you start, when you end, the length of the breaks that you take, or if you have breaks, and where you include those, insert those OS days and curriculum development days or continuing ed days. So we'll walk through that process here in a few minutes, give you an opportunity to ask questions and just kind of open it up to anyone else that might have any suggestions, or questions related to the calendar. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Clayton, and she's going to walk you through the calendar you see up there on the screen.
Well, let me ask a couple questions before we start. The guidelines for terms of days of education required, et cetera, are the same this year as last year. I understand there's a bill that may give more flexibility in terms of making up days, but in terms of our requirements for educational days, the same as last year.
180 days.
Is this calendar, this draft calendar that we're looking at, comparable to the calendar we have for 2015, 2016?
Yes.
Okay.
Very comfortable.
I'm gonna talk about that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right, I borrowed the CAS laser printer as I left the house, so I kind of used that to point to some of the things on this. Our school calendar is developed within a 40.
You might get one of those lights. It might be a little easier to see as a glare.
Is it that or
It's
that?
on the edge. That's good. That's good.
School calendar is developed within a 48-week period. So you have 48 weeks to get your calendar, get the days in. Within those days, you have 40, no more than 40 days that come through the week that you can be off. And that is represented by this orange. As Brenda would call the ones with the little double asterisks in it. You can have no more than 40 days of that kind. Now, in our calendar, we have 31. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the changes. The first change is that this year, Ms. Ferguson, some of the other people agreed, I've been saying this for a couple of years, that we need more time at the beginning of the year. So in the past, we had 2 CE days at the beginning of the year, and now we have 3 CE days. Because everybody knows it's critical to get the school year started off on a positive note, and it's always a very rushed time. So I think that's going to be really effective in helping us. And then, of course, we have our preparation day right there that also includes our faculty senate meeting. Now, the students last year started on August 17th. Once again, this year, the students are starting on August 17th. So we're trying to keep that consistent. If you go down the calendar, you can see the yellow is the holidays, and they give us those holidays that we have to put in the calendar. Our Thanksgiving break starts on November the 21st, and it is a full week. The major change this year is the Christmas break. We had a lot of concern about the Christmas break being too long. And, usually our bad weather doesn't hit until after, December. So we backed the Christmas break off, starting on the 22nd, which still gives you plenty of time. And that's also affected by when Christmas and New Year's actually fall. And so we started it on the 22nd, and we're off. Our last holiday is on the 2nd of January, so the students would come back on Tuesday, the 3rd of January. Now, in doing this, we also took this 21st day and made it a faculty senate day. And just for your information, faculty senate, we have 5 faculty senate days, and there cannot be any more than 45 instructional days between those faculty senate days.
It's just not in the right color on this draft, is that right?
I don't, on your draft, I'm not looking at,
We should have it in chart.
no, we didn't, we cannot put those, we don't mark those. It's down on the bottom of your
In fact,
calendar.
it doesn't show it on the 21st.
Oh, it's over here, the dates are listed, there's not.
Oh, okay,
It's
okay.
still a school day though. The kids-
Yes.
Yes.
It's the
It
dates
is a
listed right
school
here.
day,
Okay.
but it will be a
But you're not
2-hour early
supposed to code it
release.
on the calendar.
Okay.
The state doesn't want us to put the faculty senate days on, but the guidelines are no more than 45 instructional days apart. The first semester will end on January 11th, which is the end of the 5th month. This year, it ended on January 12th. So, very little change there. Christmas break, once again, you're talking 8 days of Christmas break, not counting your weekends. So we're still getting a really good Christmas break. But what this does is it allows us to finish the year a little earlier. All right, OS days. Last year in our calendar, we had 3 OS days at the end and 3 up in the calendar. So this year, we looked at the days off, that's Martin Luther King Day, and we kind of tried to space our OS days in the time between Martin Luther King Day and spring break. So we've got an OS day on the 20th, 17th, the 20th of March, and the 7th of April, and that is going into spring break week. As you see, we come out of spring break with a CD day so that we can train teachers for testing. What happened in this calendar is Easter fell later this year. And so in the past, we've always had spring break after Easter, correct, Jeff?
Most of the time.
Most of the
It
time.
depends, yeah.
This year, because it gets into the testing window, we moved spring break before Easter. And that was the reason we did that. So that we have plenty of time to get our West Virginia General Summative Assessment testing done. So, once again, instead of having 3 days at the end, we have moved 4 up in the calendar. And you know that the last few years, we haven't had those days. We've been in school because we've been off because of snow. And this is a training day for teachers. Now, if we don't use these last 2 OS days, then the students will finish their school year on June 2nd. The P day is always the last day, so if something would happen that we would exhaust all our OS days, and all the days we have available to make up, then the students would go to the 6th or longer, and the P day would be the last day. Because we do have to have 180 days of instruction and 20 non-instructional days. Graduation is planned for May the 26th into that holiday weekend. And that pretty much sums it up. So this calendar is very much like this year's calendar. The day that we start earlier is for teachers because we did add the CE day at the beginning. And the big change is that we are going to go Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the week of Christmas.
Isn't the spring break week a couple weeks later than it is this year?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, it'd be 2 weeks later this year than it was.
And the problem
Or
with
next
putting it
year.
here is it would probably get into our testing window.
Okay, explain that please for us. Explain what that
The
means.
last, 25 instructional, unless this changes, the
Right.
guidelines this year is that the last 25 instructional days of the school year is your testing window. So you don't want to create a situation where your break would run into that testing window.
Okay,
Because you're gonna,
when does the testing have to be over, Jeff?
so this year.
On that calendar?
On that calendar right
Yeah.
there, we'd have to be finished by June the 2nd, your last instructional.
Oh, so you could test it, you wouldn't want to maybe do that, but
Right.
you could if need be.
Right, you want to give yourself some time there at the end in case, you run into some issues
Right,
with
right.
the testing process. So
And it can move according to, like, if we have to go longer in school, the testing window can move,
Right,
correct?
it's fluid.
Okay, but now where does that 25 days begin?
Where does the well, you count back, so,
Yeah,
Jeff, do we not have all the calendar on here?
It's, Bill could hop over there and scroll.
Yeah, well, it's just that the 12's here, and then we go to the 10th.
Yeah.
So I assume the 11th is here also.
It is.
Okay,
yeah.
so,
I'm just trying to see where that 25th day is.
so that way, just,
April 28th on my calendar.
okay. So you've got 4 days, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, is that right, 5, 10, 15, 16, 18, 19, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So if we come back and train the teachers on the 17th, and then we'll have 33 days. And most of the time, these days are used for, you know, class trips, your awards, those type of things. We try to, and the calendar we've built this year for our testing, we fixed, I think we're gonna be able to finish our testing in a little over 3 weeks, but the general summative assessments, you can test, like kids that come in, you don't have to have like one whole class, just a certain grade level. You can bring somebody in on the computer, and they can be doing the test, a 7th grader, possibly while a 6th grade bunch is testing. But in our calendar, we left most Fridays open to do makeup testing. Do you want to do that, Beck?
Okay, hypothetically, when would you envision that testing would begin there?
For me, I would say, you know, the first time that we did, I'm trying to think, last year we tested, I thought we were never gonna get finished, ever. And, we thought, you know, okay, we'll do our English testing, we'll do our math testing. And so this year we rethought that. So we're gonna do a certain grade, and we do a middle school class and an elementary class, and test them completely through, and then move on to the next group. But possibly, I would say, I would probably use this as, I wouldn't schedule a week just for makeup, I would use this for my trips, and I encourage all my trips to be happening at the same time. I don't know how you all do that, Beck.
You're looking at
So
around May
probably
1st.
probably May 1st,
Yeah.
Okay, around May the 1st, you begin
around May
testing,
1st.
and that'd give you a couple of weeks, and then a week for makeup maybe.
Right, well, you don't even have, you can do makeup within your testing, which is really
Oh,
the neat thing about this.
different classes.
But you also got, and Bill can probably address this better than I can, your dynamic learning.
That
Testing.
testing usually starts a little earlier.
Yeah, it starts a little earlier, we usually try to get that taken care of ahead of time.
Now, you mentioned trips, so you all don't typically schedule your school trips until the last week or two, or what?
Last, well,
Ideally.
this will
it'd
be probably 8th grade graduation, and then the trips for my kids will be the 30th, 31st, and 1st, because our teachers do an absolutely fantastic job. Our kids go to Washington, to Virginia, they've gone all over the place for trips, and they you know, fundraise all year and schedule these trips. And our 8th graders actually go to that, you know, that course, the Fayetteville,
Yeah.
which has been a real good, it's like in West Virginia, and they've said that's one of the best trips. So I tell them, this is when I want them, these 3 days. And then there's the last day of school for report cards and those things. Now, obviously, you know, what do? You have to have all these deposits in and stuff, and if we miss a bunch of school, you know, and the school year's extended, it makes it a little difficult, but you still have to, you know, they're already planning these trips and sending in deposits and, you know, booking the buses and booking the hotels, so that's done months and months and months in advance.
One of the complaints that we've all had, and personally, I guess myself too, is that at times people will complain that we quit having school too soon prior to the end of the school year ends. And, you know, I know you're kind of in the mold that I was in. We didn't let them take the books up when we had to. But that's something we often hear. But I, at the same time, I know if we have school council, then that kind of offers that, you have to move it up. But under the public, we, not just in our county, but throughout the region last year, you know, where there were so many days made up, and there were kids staying home washing their car, and the school was supposed to have been going on, nobody went. That, I know Mr. Midkiff and I, we've had this discussion many times, that,
Coming to the middle school to visit their old teachers.
well.
Me and Miss Clayton wouldn't let them visit.
Well, that's why we're hopefully gonna, yeah, that's something that we have to be able to address, but I'm just trying to see, but typically, that's what you do, just for, Becky, you do, how do you handle
With
your
trips.
trips?
Actually, mine, a lot of our reward trips, because they have 2 field trips, you know, during the year, but then that's a reward trip. We tie that in a lot of times to attendance for the testing. I mean, you know, that's kind of there.
Right.
So as long as it's after their testing usually, then if, like, if 5th grade's finished, then they could go on a field trip, you know.
Okay. Now, when they return from that, if there's a week or two of school, do we go back and have an instruction
Oh, yes.
again, or
Mhm.
we?
Yes. Our books and stuff aren't taken up until, you know, the very end. Yes.
Nor ours. I know
We would
kids
go
can go on a
crazy. If
trip
they weren't
and
instructing, we'd go crazy.
Well, that was always my, you know, once you did that, you were just asking for chaos.
No, they're gonna teach, yeah.
You know, we have teachers that teach multiple grade levels. And so they would be going on trips and it would, you know, I'd be like, okay, how am I covering this, you know? So that's why I went to a situation where they all go right here. So you have 7th grade sponsors, 8th grade sponsors, and 6th grade sponsors, and those are the ones that take the big trips. Elementary do smaller trips.
Day trips.
Right, but, you know, if school's extended, we're still, you know, working to the very end, but now, we're working, sometimes parents aren't sending,
Wow.
you know, I mean, you gotta be honest, I mean, I'm saying, you know, you have no more days left, you have to be here because they get 10 parent excuses a year.
Well, that's where we have to be showing what the culture is going to change, that what we anticipate of parents and students. But, you know, we have to initiate that, I think, as a school system, to let them know that's the way it's going to be.
The good thing, I think, this year about scheduling testing, like doing, we left the 8th grade to the very end. I think the 5th and the 8th grade are the last 2 that we're testing. Because believe me, 8th grade, they want to quit, you know, they want to say, well, we've tested and we're done. And so that means up until that last week, when they're doing their testing, it's probably gonna be right here, they're having instruction. And that, I think that's gonna work a lot better for us, because it's more, elementary kids come to the very end for the most part. They're there to the very end. But your 8th graders are too full for school sometimes. And so, you know, they get to the point where they're like, oh, we're moving to high school and we don't need to be.
Now, that calendar gives us 8 days, makeup days. There's 6 OS days there in purple, as well as that CD day on April the 17th, we come back to break. And the preparation day on June the 5th is also a potential day to make up for lost instruction. One, I guess, negative for having the 4 or the 3 CE days at the beginning of the calendar is that you do give up a day that you could later in the school year use to make up for lost instruction by having it up front. But however, there's a lot of counties, I've been looking at calendars the last few weeks online, who do exactly what we're proposing, and that is they bring their teachers back, their staff back for 4 days prior to the start of the school year to give them ample time to prepare.
And the state requires us to have 18 hours of continuing ed.
Are those, some of those 18 hours in a part of those 3 days?
Yeah,
Or are
they're
those 3 days? That's the 3 of them there?
My teachers also, as I talk to them over the years, because I like to do this and always ask their opinion about stuff, and, you know, not too long ago, I was in a classroom, and they like a weekend to fall in between, you know, when we start and when the kids are coming back, because they're up there all the time. You know, I think Mr. Priestley prays for me when he goes to church on Sunday, and I'm at school working. He has to mention that.
You brought it up.
And
I'm sorry.
you have a lot of flexibility with those OS days. I know there's some counties out there like this year right now use those OS days as potential spring break. They didn't put in out a calendar day. It was like, we're gonna have spring break, it's gonna be using OS days. So, you'll see that sometimes, somewhere in April, you'll see 5 OS days in a row.
Aren't they gambling?
They are gambling. It is a gamble. It used to be, back before the calendar changes, the guideline changed, really, the logical thing to do was to have those OS days up there in the calendar to use in case you did miss instruction. So that, you're making up for that lost time in preparation for the assessment. Now, that's changed somewhat now because that window that you test is fluid and it moves with your calendar. So if you start tacking on days, well, that window follows the calendar. So it's not as advantageous as it has been in the past to have those OS days up on the calendar. But we chose to go ahead and put them in there because it is such a long time from Christmas break to when we have our spring break. We also talked about the possibility of separating the spring break from Easter, from that holiday. And we did that one time before here, and that was when David Roach was superintendent. And our attendance, despite our best efforts to communicate to employees, to staff members, to parents, to students, that holiday and our break was not concurrent. Our attendance leading up to Easter holiday on that Thursday and Friday was horrendous. So, people do plan for trips and vacations or have family coming in around that Easter time, that holiday. So we chose to go ahead in this proposed calendar and leave that break right there.
There's two modes of thinking with this. As I talk to teachers all the time, some said, well, we think all the OS days should be up in the calendar. And then when we put them up there a few years ago, you remember this, Jeff, when we put them all up in there? Then they said, we had all those long weekends and we could never get in a good fluid motion of teaching.
We had no snow.
We had no snow days, it was disruptive. And also, my teachers, several of them have said to me, we would rather lose a couple of days spring break than go extra at the end of the year. Now, I don't know how the rest of the county feels, that's just my teachers. Because they say, spring break is so late that, they think that they could make it. So they would rather give up a couple of days right here, if need be, than have to go on I'll be quite frank, about June 18th, I was miserable this year. Becky, and my teachers were miserable.
And my staff actually said the same. They'd rather have a shorter spring break than, have
Are
to
you
go
saying
longer.
that if we miss an excessive number of days due to weather?
They'd rather take from there than at the end.
They'd rather use spring break days rather than at the end?
At least, as long as they had 3. But they said a couple days, they'd
Kind of
have,
like last year, we took 2, I guess, right?
they'd have no problem with it.
Now, Kim, these days on March the 17th and the 20th, if we didn't have any bad weather, those are like vacation days, right?
Right, long weekend. And what we did was we divided that up between, we looked at our days between Martin Luther King Day, because we're only back 9 days, we're off a day. We looked at our days between there and spring break, and we kind of divided them out, thinking, you go about, I don't know how many days there, 15, 24 days, you have a long weekend, and then you go 5, 10, 15, 20 days, you have a long weekend, and then you're looking at about 15 days in spring break.
And there are some counties that take President's Day as a day that they're out. Mr. Linville had a suggestion that we put that OS Day there on February the 20th, next year's calendar, because that happens to be President's Day. So that's a great idea.
Banks are closed, post offices are closed, and we thought, this is our chance to take President's Day.
Then they're gonna want it every year. That's the problem.
They do, they will. Because that's one of our biggest complaints. from
Every
parents.
year
They
you get that
call,
question
And they
asked
want to know
about.
why we're not taking that day.
Well, we're taking it next year. You can spread the-
Dangerous precedent.
Spread the
Look at
rumor.
those snow.
That's why it's snow day,
Snow.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of either Mr. Thurston, Ms. Clayton, or Mr. Midkiff, or Mr. Linville, or Brenda? Anybody have any comments, suggestions, whatever? Once again, at this point, it's a proposal. This is our first public hearing. We'll have one again on the 15th. then I don't guess there's a particular time you schedule it yet before we approve it yet. We have until May the 2nd, so that'll be up to the superintendent. We'll discuss it, and we'll put it on the agenda, so it won't be the 15th. But I like the idea there's consistency. That's what I've been after the last couple of years, so that people know when they're summer vacation and I'm in Myrtle Beach or somewhere, and I can schedule next year and know within reason when our school's going to start. And if you're really attentive, you know exactly when it's going to start. But that's what it says. Okay, anybody have anything else about the calendar? Thank you all for working. All right.
Mountaineers play at Cinnamon.
Oh, one thing, Jeff, other counties you mentioned, have you, are you aware of any of our adjacent or surrounding counties? Have you noticed anything that they even sent you the counties they're putting together?
The only calendar I've seen is the one that Canal County put together, and that was weeks before the guidelines came out. I was at a meeting earlier yesterday in Logan, with superintendents from neighboring counties, and they're just now beginning to bring their committees together. They haven't even had their first public meeting. So
Okay, that's
we're really
perfect. Be
optimistic
tight here.
in the
Okay.
counties around us.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the administrative section then. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Baker. Thank you.
Okay, item A is West Virginia State University student Josh Barnett to perform observation at Lee County High School during the second semester. Item B is an agreement with Ricky Egner to provide transportation services for a student attending Hamlin PK-8 for the 2015-2016 school year, beginning February the 8th, 2016, according to the terms of the agreement which is attached and funded through transportation. Item C is an agreement with Tara Tooley to provide transportation services for a student attending Hamlin PK-8 for the 2015-2016 school year, beginning January the 11th, 2016, according to the terms of the agreement which is attached and also funded through transportation. Item D, an out-of-state trip for Lincoln County High School marching band students to perform at Disney World, March the 27th through the 31st, 2016, transport by private coach, all expenses paid by the group. Item E is out-of-state travel for following employees: John Roy, principal of West Salem Elementary School, School of Washington, D.C., July 5th through the 9th, 2016, to participate in the Best Practices for Better Schools Conference, funded through Title I. And item F, according to the provisions of the West Virginia Secondary Schools Activities Commission, particular provision being 127 CSR 2, Section 3.2.E, to permit a Guy Valley Middle School student to move up to the Lincoln County High School boys track team for practice and competition effective immediately. This is a young man who's aged out, he's too old to participate in middle school athletics this year as an 8th grader at Guy Valley. This provision allows students, provided that the principals of the two schools, as well as the board, approves for the student to be able to step up and play high school sports. This will begin the student's 4 years of athletic eligibility, which he would age out when he's a senior anyway. If he would stay in school, his senior year, he's going to be 19, too old to play high school sports. So it's an opportunity to help a student. I think it's a good thing.
Anybody have any questions about any of these items? Okay, if not, I'll call for question. And all in favor of the administrative items? Is that all yes?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move to the finance section. Any motion? Rowdy made the motion, seconded by Fred. Okay. Bill, you gonna do that one?
Item A, schedule of invoices totaling $200,249.07. Attachment invoices are available for public review at the county office. Item B, payment totaling $9,911.53 to attorney Mark A. Barney for attorney fees and costs associated with the appeal and civil action number 14-110, Lincoln County Board of Education versus Kelly Bumpus.
Okay, anybody, I know everybody's pondered over the invoices. Anybody have anything in particular? Not, I'll call for the question. Is that an all yes for the finance items?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, I can hear Carol there. Okay, personnel, motion please. Sarah made the motion, second by Larry.
Item A, employment of extracurricular athletic personnel. B, leave of absence. C, resignations and/or retirements. Also, with the RIFs and transfers, we're certainly glad those are behind us because a lot of counties are just now getting in that process. So, and looking at next school year, we have certified position or people on permit working towards certification in all positions except a special ed position at the high school, math at Duval and Guy Valley, and science at Duval and Hamlin. And Mr. King and I are going to Marshall's Teacher Recruitment Fair and West Virginia State's next week. And then we had a call from the president of the Education Association in Boone County. They lost 70 staff members up there, and they're going to have their own job fair. So we're going to go up there to that one. We may pick up some certified teachers up there in Boone County that they've lost. Yeah.
There may be a glut, I don't know.
Special education. Probably, he said probably around April the 8th.
Okay, anybody have any questions on personnel bill, or bill? Okay. All in favor of the personnel items as presented, is that an all yes?
Yes.
All right, we get out of comments, concerns, board members, anything? Yes, sir, Mr.
Do
Wilson.
we know whether they got the light fixed up at the light?
Last year, Mr. Wilkerson?
No, I didn't know it was a problem.
Of course, I think I told you in my email that Dana knew there was something, but he honestly does not know how to fix it. He says it does that, at least one day a week. He was going to try to follow up on it, but I don't know. He was in Hearts all day today, so I'm sure he hasn't done anything.
If it was a fast flashing back and forth
Yeah,
of
it
the
was
light,
like-
it's not doing that thing. The lights are on, both of them are on, and they're just twittering
Twitter,
like that.
yeah. Yeah, he was aware of that. I told him it was twittering.
It could damage the unit, I would think.
All right, we can look into that, I guess. Okay, anything else? Ms. Plum, since you're here, what's the status of your building out there? Update us.
We got the foundation for it. Lindsay, the mayor, came up with the excavator dose foundation early February. We fought rain for the last 3 weeks. They've got the first layer of brick laid today. We're doing the drainage system as part of it, hopefully in the next day or two, weather permitting. And the goal is to get to 3 layers of block brick, which we've got on site, pour the foundation, the floor, including all the drains and everything, and then get the drain line over to the field, just the rainwater out of there. And then I've got to get some door frames so they can start putting the walls up. So prayer and hope we'll get there.
Good. Have you all worked out the issues as far as the electricity and the water and all that, or have you got a plan?
Dana has a job order in for electricity. It's been there a while, so I don't know, hopefully it's perking to the top. The water, I'll be able to get to that because there's if you're familiar with the soccer field, there's that water at the end of the soccer field, and then it goes to the baseball dugout, home team. And so there's a straight line between those two, so we're gonna dig till we hit it and tap it, and then just bring it up to the soccer building. And I've got a tractor with a backhoe on it, so I'll probably do that spring break, if not before. And then the big issue really for me is the sewer. I can't deal with that. That's in the hard to do category. So, we may have bathrooms over there, but big signs on do not use, till we figure out that part. Okay.
Hopefully we'll be able to resolve that part.
Well, it's, the line is going to, the line between baseball and softball, it goes into tap into it. It was the plan that Dana, the engineer that did the planning or whatever for all that. So the concept is there. That's just a lot of digging, and there's a gas line in there, and in the hard to do category.
You want to keep that backhoe out there, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
you have a set of plans that shows you where the plumbing and stuff needs to be at now?
Well, actually, what's happening right now is I am working with the CT department of the state to get a grant, $20,000 grant, which I will know by hopefully April 1st. They said that that's when they'll have them all awarded, because the deadline to submit is March 11th. And then I'm hoping they'll be able to pay it forward a little bit and help. And what happened is we've got the plan, but I started with the plan, and then we talked with the kids, and we laid out the building in the room, the building construction shop. Said, no, we don't want to do that. Once we saw visually what we were doing, and so we modified a couple of things, made it bigger, kind of like baseball bathrooms on the end. We went that concept, and now once we get the bricks to a certain level, we're working on the upper floor. Because the intent is to have a decent place for the girls to change, maybe leave an area there for a scoreboard to go on, and maybe even a walk-around deck, possibly. If I get the grant from the state, there's not going to be any issues. I've had donations so far right now of close to $6,000, so we've got a good start.
But what I was getting at, your sewer line needs to be on the concrete floor and the floor for the board.
Yes, what Dana came over and told us was where it's at, so we can project where the lines will have to leave the building.
Right, I understand that, but where your commode's set, they've got to be in there for the concrete floor.
Oh, yes, well, what I needed to tell the building construction was, this is the corner that's coming out, now plan according to that.
Yeah, okay.
So, and hopefully, Lord willing, next week we'll have a floorboard, late next week, because the weather's going to get better next week.
Yeah. Also,
But it's amazing, if you want to come and watch some kids involved, is go over there during the day and watch those kids be in charge of figuring this stuff out. And they don't know, I mean, Shane's there teaching them, and teaching as you go each time you hit an obstacle, well, why are you doing this? Or what do we need to do next? And those kids have so embraced the concept of them being in charge and doing something, it's amazing. I mean, it's just, you don't normally see that. You don't see that in the classroom. It just doesn't happen. But when a kid's out there doing something like that, it's just a whole different ballgame.
Hands-on.
With the hands-on, and, oh, by the way, you learn how to do this, I know this person's really interested in hiring you for the weekend, so you can get more experience, and maybe that job comes June 1st. So it's a whole different concept.
Thank you. Okay, nothing else, Mr. Mickey, everything?
Oh, just a reminder that the March 15th board meeting at 5 p.m., we're going to have a student recognition award ceremony. It's the students who won Spelling Bee, Math Field Day competition, with state winners of Martin Luther King poster contest. What's Mrs. Goodson, Caleb, what was it?
Merit scholarship.
Merit, National Merit Finalist. Music. Brenda's, have you mailed out the invitations?
On tomorrow.
Get ready to.
March the 3rd. No, March the 3rd, day after. I do have a menu plan. It's a surprise.
Got a little something sweet for Mr. Wilson.
I love sweets, right? That's like those.
Invitation is great. Okay, then I'll get it. Okay. Nobody has anything else, we'll adjourn then. Carol, take care. Don't look up, don't look down, don't bend over. Okay, a motion, please. Larry, seconded by Rowdy. All yes? Yeah. All right. We have adjourned at 6:50.